Welcome back to the Behenian Broadcast. I'm Gary Caton in New River Valley of Virginia, and I'm here with Sylvia. Hey,
Hello,
Sylvia.
everyone. Hi, Gary. It's so good to see you after a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
There was Spain, and then you have returned back home. So much has happened.
yeah,
And we welcome everyone into the Behenian Stars podcast. I'm so excited for your election today.
yeah. Me too. This one is actually I took this star with me to Spain the first time when I was on uh, Camino. And I had last summer, I had made some talismans for every month. I do a report where I put together the elections, not just for the stars, but I do the planets and the lunar mansions and the decans and houses. I do like six different kinds. And then I send those out to my members every month. And then sometimes, if there's a special election, I'll go ahead and make talismans and they're available only to my members. So
Mm.
and so I had found, so we're talking about Procyon this time. I guess I should just go ahead and say
Yes, yes,
the
yes,
star
yes,
Procyon, the Canis minor, Alpha Canis minor, the little dog. Um,
yes.
and in the lore for this, one of the symbols also for this star is a rooster.
Yes, I have it right here. I want to show everyone. I
Yeah.
hope you can see. You can see
There you go.
this.
Yeah.
It's in and out of focus. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I found some cards with roosters on them, and I put some, what the stone that goes with this star is agate,
Hmm.
and the flower that goes with it is marigold or pennyroyal. So I put
Yes, I
some,
have. Yes.
yeah. So I put some agate, little bit of crushed agate, and a little bit of the petals of the flowers, and I put against the card, and then I put in an envelope and I mailed out to all my people. And I had a few,
This sounds so fantastic. It
yeah,
sounds so amazing.
yeah. And I don't do that every month, but sometimes I'll go. And I had a few left over. Not everybody replied back that they wanted one for whatever reason. And so I had some left over, so I took them to Spain with me, and it was
Mm.
incredible. Like one of the things that this star is, it says it gives power over magic. And so just an example. So I have an old injury from when I fell off a roof working on my house some time ago.
Oh wow.
Didn't put the ladder.
Did you study the chart of that moment?
Oh
That
my
is
goodness. No, I just wanted to get better, but yeah, I was a little bit worried that about walking 40 kilometers a day for 2 weeks. I was like,
for the Camino. For the
yeah.
Camino. Yes.
So I had borrowed a bike and I was doing some of it on the bike. And there was a guy, it was the uncle of my student Olga. Um, so the uncle was following us in his RV, and he was like the pit crew. He was like the guy, if I needed to help with the bike, I was supposed to call Tio. And so I had a flat tire and I'm going, oh man, I guess I'm gonna have to call Tio, and then I thought to myself, well, I'll just walk a little bit further. Maybe I'll see somebody else with a bike and I'll ask them if they have a pump or a patch or whatever. And
And without knowing the story, magic happens on the
is
Camino.
yeah, and then so I'm walking, and then next thing I know, I go by and I hear his wife is Colombian and she has a very distinctive voice. It sounds different than Spanish and Colombia,
Yes.
right? And so I
Yes.
hear his wife s saying, "There he is, there he is." And I'm like, "What?" They drove up at exactly the time that I needed help. And this was, I mean, they were on their own schedule. Like we didn't plan any of this. But it was
And this
just,
happened this time that you were in Spain, where you took the magic little bags with you, correct?
I took the little talismans
Yes.
with me, yeah, to Spain. I
Yeah.
had it in my backpack. And this kind of magic, and that wasn't the only thing. I mean, there was a lot of things. And like you say, that's part of the Camino anyways. Everybody, trail magic, they have a Camino here in the US. It's called the Appalachian Trail. And people
Yes.
talk about trail magic. It just kind of happens. It's like the nature of, but you know why? Because it's Mercury. Mercury
The
is,
Mercury.
you
That's
know,
what I was gonna
and
say.
this
Mercury is
star,
of the
yeah, this star is of the nature of Mercury. It's a mercurial star. Um,
Yes, I want to take a little moment here, if you allow me. I want to say step one step back to say when you were discussing about the mansions and everything that you do in your work,
mhm,
I was hit by the inspiration that eventually it's good if we can, or if you want us to put a class together to
mm,
teach people what are the mansions and what is the hourly magic and what are the elections. At least I am not like, oh, let's teach everyone how to do it. This is not the idea. The idea is to know at least what it is. So it's an
yeah.
introduction. So that
Mhm.
was one thought I wanted to
Yeah,
share out
because I
loud.
actually used the mansions as they were originally laid out. That is based upon certain stars.
Right.
There's
We,
certain
which,
stars.
which, as we said in our, I believe, first or second podcast, it is uh, the curtain which holds the universe together. Those are the stars that are related with this magic.
Mhm.
And the second thing I wanted to say, if you allow me, or if you want to hear the pronunciation of this star, is Procyon.
Procyon.
Pro
Procyon.
Procyon. Procyon. And
Procyon.
yes, and Kion is a dog. Kion is a dog in
Yeah.
ancient Greek, and
Yeah.
pro means the first dog. So the first little dog at the gate.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the one that is, it's the protector.
Uh-huh. Wow.
That is the in Greek clearly how we would pronounce.
Yes.
So I just wanted to share that part. Yeah.
That's interesting because also you have Orion and then you have the Canis Minor and Canis Major. And Procyon is the one who is closer to Orion. So he's like the first dog following the hunter.
The hunter, exactly.
Yeah.
So is the hunter Orion with the dogs. Isn't it so fantastic, amazing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So the first dog, yeah, and the pro meaning protection and Keon. And that's yeah, and that's why we kept dogs around since forever. One of their main functions was to be a mouthpiece. Oh, hey, danger, there's somebody there, like wake up. There's another tribe is trying to invade the camp or whatever.
And also, it protected you on the Camino. Like this being was with you, this star was with you in the magic pouches, and so brought you the help on the road.
Yeah, exactly when I needed it too. It was that was like I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this thing's working. And there was some other really interesting things too. Um, I've actually been working with this star for quite some time. It's one of the first ones that by it in American football, there's a saying that defense wins championships. And I always played defense when I played football. So defense is protection. So in other words, before you decide, oh, I want a talisman for love or wealth or success or whatever, maybe before all that, you just need protection while you're going to get those things, you know? And so my philosophy has always been like, let's get some protection set up and then we'll start venturing out and trying other things. And because this is one of the main protective stars, it was one of the ones that I started working with first. Um,
Very, very true. Very true. Well, may I ask, what has been your experience, except this magical one? What has been the sense you get in the
of the star
vibe,
itself,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting because Procyon is a very bright star relative to others. Um, But compared to Sirius, which is the other dog star that's nearby, and compared to some of the stars in Orion, it's not as bright. So compared to like the rest of the sky, it's a pretty bright star, but in that neighborhood, it's not the brightest one. And so it does have this feeling of being a little more gentle than like a little more. It's kind of like it feels like a wizard to me, like a quieter, older person who is wise and gentle, they but powerful. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yes, because there is a rooster, and rooster has always been a protector, and rooster can also fiercely protect you.
Oh
It
yeah.
can, it can really fiercely
Oh,
protect you. And then we have three women. We have
yeah, the
three women.
three maids. That's another
Yeah,
symbol.
the three men. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting, a lot of this lore comes from this star. It's called the Book of Hermes on the 15 stars, right? And this book was passed down as part of larger compendiums, such as Agrippa's, three books of occult philosophy, that you have a section in there on these Behenian stars. There's other manuscripts. Um, and so clearly it's the Book of Hermes on the 15 stars. So they're hermetic in nature. Um, but it's not like a modern book where it says, you know, it says these are the symbols and here's why. It just says these are the symbols.
Hmm.
So why three young women, three maids? We don't precisely know. But it's interesting, that that symbol is there because there's been times where I was working with Procyon and literally I was at a hotel or something, and I went down to get in the hot tub for a little while to relax. And and I was alone, and there's a pool there too. I was alone. And then what happens? Three young girls come in and start playing in the pool together. And I was like, wow, that's pretty literal because there wasn't two or four, it was three. And they were young girls, like not, yeah, teenagers, young adult. Um,
And also, yeah, and also the number three, three women. There is the three Haris, the three, what is the word in English? The
they,
graces,
oh, gracious,
the three graces, which are in the Met. There is a sculpture in the Met, very
right,
popular. There are copies of it and there's original of it. And there is also um, the ones that are defined, the three Midi,
yeah, the
yeah, yeah,
fate,
the ones that are the fates, exactly.
yes,
The ones that are deciding the human's fate, the beginning, the middle, and the end. The
yeah,
one that initiates, the one that sustains, and the one that cuts.
yeah,
Clotho, lachesis, yeah, clotho meaning weaving, sustaining, weaving, the one that initiates, the one that sustains, and the one that cuts the life. And so I feel those are um, energies that are the beginning, the middle, and the end of the human face, or the face of anything that we start to
yeah.
create, a
I mean,
magic work,
yes,
whatever it is.
alchemy is definitely one of the things that I teach people all the time is there's three colors There's Negredo, Albero, Rubero. Like there's the blackening, the whitening, and the reddening. These three phases are steps in the transformation and so that's a really great point, Sylvia. Like three is a very magical number. And I love how you bring in the graces and the fates as ways to um, that this star is somehow connected to them through that image. Makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, and that's something that would be a lot of fun actually to go a little bit deeper and do a little bit more research, maybe write a little article.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here in the books that we usually look at, it talks about that the nature of these stars, the star is Mercury and Mars, which makes total sense that it appeared on the Camino, mercurial. It is of
And
the
Mars, right?
road,
It's a difficult journey.
right? The action of movement, like you're in movement on the path of the roads.
Yep.
And then it talks about it's also some relationship to the Gemini, meaning two stars that are two kind of like smaller stars that are in a placement in this
Yes. Yeah.
constellation.
Yes. So I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure they're talking about the same thing, but the Gemini stars, Castor and Pollux, are nearby, and
Right.
I can show a little map of that if you like.
Sure, yes, we can bring it up. Yes, and then I can talk a little bit about the thrice context that it brings up.
Okay. So, so yeah, if you look to the west tonight after sunset and you want to see the moon with Procyon, so
Yes.
So I put some yellow lines in this diagram so that people could see um, these. So there's a larger asterism is what it's called. It's several constellations that form a large hexagon. It's called the winter hexagon. And so
Hmm.
if you go from the foot of Orion and then you go over to the red star Aldebaran up to the bright star Capella, and then over to Castor and Pollux, back down to Procyon, back down to Sirius, and then back around to Regal. This is called the Winter Hexagon. It's a really big. I have some photographs of this, just like sky photographs that I
It's
didn't think.
such a cool constellation of stars. Asterismos is so beautiful,
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that Orion's hand and also the Milky Way comes right through the middle of this.
Wow.
Orion's hand is kind of pointing at the middle. And so there's like this in Native American mythology, or what we know of it, unfortunately, um, there seems to be some suggestion that this was associated with some kind of racetrack, or they would call this the sacred hoop. Um,
Right.
but yeah, you can see that Castor and Pollux are here at the head of each of the twins, and the moon will be tonight much closer to them in terms of physical proximity, but she'll be still in the degrees of Procyon down here. Procyon is further off of the ecliptic than these stars are. So it's in the neighborhood of these Gemini stars for sure. And
Amazing.
yeah, and that might be why some of the mercurial associations.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, with the Gemini, the ruler
Hmm.
of the Gemini house. Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Is such when you are describing the hand of Orion, it brings also the energy of action. Um, but not thought, it's thoughtful action.
Well,
It's
we,
thoughtful
we
action.
we would hope so. Orion wasn't always so thoughtful. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the charioteer up here, the charioteer seems to me a little bit more thoughtful. You know,
Uh-huh.
to make a chariot stay on the road, you have to balance the energy of the left and the right, the masculine and the feminine. You know, there's this, the charioteer seems a little more balanced to me. Um,
Yes.
it's interesting because this place, Jupiter is here between the horns of the bull. Here, this is the
Mm.
bull, right?
This is a placement. These are the placements now.
Yes, this is what you'll
Yes.
see this evening. You'll see
Okay.
Jupiter here in between the horns of the bull. And this is where the planet Uranus was discovered, between the
Mm.
horns of the bull. And so I've talked about this a lot of times where the bull represents just raw power of nature, to me, you know.
Hmm.
And
Correct.
Orion represents this hunter who tried to like dominate that energy. And the charioteer to me represents someone who is a little more balanced in that it's harnessing that energy and using it for movement, you know?
Right. Yeah, because the charioteer also is harnessing horses that again is a force of nature, movement, purpose. Definitely, absolutely, yes. Wow. And Jupiter is there right now on top of it we would say the crown of Taurus,
Hmm.
which I do know that the Taurus part of our lives right now, just name it, all the Taurus representation of our lives right now is very active and the crown of the Taurus, everything and anything that is of, money, a stock market, how housing, our homes, our locations, the earth, the cultivation of the earth is all now very much in the forefront.
Yeah, I was just out putting compost and mulch on all my trees in my orchard, so I was very much
Very,
with my
very
hands in
much
the dirt
so.
for a few days there. It's
Absolutely.
a lovely time of year for that.
Are there any suggestions that you have with this placement? Because here it says in the booklet that it has three energies in the context of astral magic, three main effects. The
Yes.
one is general preservation of health, that is, protect your health before the problem is created, which is very powerful. Like, listen to the voice of your body, listen to the element of the body before it happens. Then
Hmm.
the second is grand power of magic, which you said, um, and of course on the path of goodness. That's what we always in magic. What is magic? I'm writing an essay on that right now. Is about manifestation of the forces of nature in agreement, in alignment with higher will. And then the third one is favors granted.
Yes.
In almost like you're on the path, something happened, you had the thought, I need help, boom, it appeared.
Right? Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's a big favor. Yeah, no, Tio did me a huge favor to be my sort of guardian angel on that trip. And I needed him a few times because the bike that I was loaned was not exactly the right bike for the job. And so it created some problems. And so it was great. But yeah, in fact, in the text, it says it grants favor of gods, spirits, and men. So,
Correct.
and now we should sort of, why does it mention three kinds of favor? Well, there's the gods, which are like, you know, um, deity type forces that are like sort of very high, if you will. And then spirits would actually be intermediaries between the gods and the humans. And then, of course, there's humans. So, so it's interesting. Like you can have a star that would grant favor of like people like it would grant social advancement or whatever, but then if you use that in a way that was offensive to the gods, they might say, nope, we're going to take that away. right? So you might go up and then back down, kind of like the stock market does sometimes.
Correct, correct.
But
And you know, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
but if this one, it's interesting. It says all three, and it's what you were talking about being in alignment. If you put your will in alignment with the will of the gods, and the spirits are there to assist, then you have something that is not, it's not anything that you have to worry about where, okay, I might get away with this in the human realm, but then later the gods are going to smack that down, you know? Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Because the power of magic, we're talking about an alchemist who is understanding the elements, and this is exactly what I'm writing right now. A lot, super emphasis on the ethics is that no one can practice this with the forces of the universe without initiation and without the necessary knowledge. Because the stars are benevolent for the most part, but they're not joking. So they're listening to us, they're listening to our wishes and our thoughts. And when we have real consciousness, because like you're on the path of the Camino, and that is a path, and is that such a perfect example? It's an alchemical path. It's a path that transforms you.
yes, it's a
And so the
religious pilgrimage.
magician,
Yeah,
exactly, the pilgrimage. So the
yeah,
magician is a conscious, or should be, it's good to be conscious of the mind, the wishes, the mind, because the great work, it is the one that is in alignment with the higher will, with the great work of the universe.
yes. And that's very difficult to know. And so a lot of times, for instance, when people ask me to be a part of something, I'll tell them, do I have room in my schedule, right? Well, A, is it something I feel I want to be a part of? Okay, the answer is
Correct.
B, do I have room in my schedule? All right. And so that's the realm of human stuff. And okay, yes, I would like to be part of that. And yes, I have room in my schedule. And I will often say to people, okay, now let me see what the spirits have to say about it, because that's another consideration, you know. The spirits have their own, and the thing is, because they are so much higher, they might have um, plans that for us that we can't see. And so if we're think about it, it's like a child, like when you're looking after a child and they're running here and there, and you're trying to get them over here, and they go over here and then over there, and you're okay, okay, but if the child goes like way over that way, like no, 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 right? So there's like, okay, this way a little bit, that way. Okay, we're getting like in the general direction. Okay, a little weaving back and forth is fine. But if you start to go that way, no, 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 I'm gonna have to corral you back over here. And we are children in that respect to these higher forces. And so, yeah, it's probably good to check in with your parents before you go running off to Europe or something. You know what I'm
So
saying?
very, so very true. So very true. And all the spiritual lineages in all the spiritual schools that are respected and ethical and of good standing, in traditions, spiritual traditions, they always talk about big part is the alignment with the divine will, the divine will being that even if you don't believe in one God or whatever, there is the alignment of the stars. They are working well together. They have a chemistry, they have a flow, they have an order, divine order,
Yeah,
in
and they'll
which,
speak to you.
yeah,
They will
and
speak
they
to
will
you. If
speak to
you,
you.
one of the
Exactly.
ways that I would do, so if I say to someone, okay, yes, I like this idea. Yes, I have room in my schedule. Let me see what the spirits say, right? So how do I do that? I might go to the tarot and see what the tarot has to say. I might also just take a little time and just watch for synchronicities and signs, you know. I've had this happen many times where, for instance, one time I was thinking, you know, I wanted to work with this particular plant and I just had the thought and I planted the intention, oh, I would really like to work with that plant, right? And then
Hmm.
and then I forgot about it. I'm going around and something else happens and I end up at this place. I'm trying to rent a room and and it's late at night and, you know, I'm trying to get in the room and there's this plant hanging in the way of the door and I'm like pushing it out of the way, trying to get in the door. And then something made me stop. Because I had seen this plant only in pictures, but I wanted to see it and get to know it. And I stopped for a second. I said, wait a minute, I think that's the plant that I was wanting to find out about. And so I went in and I was very tired, so I got some rest. I got up for breakfast and I asked the guy, you know, is that what I think it is? He said, and he didn't even say a word. He goes like this and he goes into the kitchen. He comes back and he hands me a bag full of the dried herb of this plant that I had wanted to work with. That's a pretty clear yes from the universe. Like, yes, you're supposed to be work. If somebody hands you pre already prepared bag full, that's a pretty clear yes, right? Whereas if I had been like trying to force the issue, oh, I must find this plan, I'm going, and then in the process of like trying to force the issue, you know, I don't know, let's say I see some and I like go and then somebody, oh, you're trespassing on my land. You shouldn't. That's a
Right,
pretty clear red flag at this. You see what I'm
right.
saying? So,
Yes,
so
yes,
you,
yes.
so as you contemplate these actions, you listen for the signals that come back. You know, it's like again, is the parent saying, "Okay, okay, just a little more this way," or are they saying, "No, no, 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 we're going over here." They'll tell you
Correct,
if you're
correct,
listening.
correct. Correct. And if you listen, and my experience also as an intuitive as well, and that's why it's so great working together because we understand these forces and the messages. Like you need the trust to go with the flow, and you need to listen what they're telling you. You need to
Yeah.
look, and if you're listening for answers, any question you can imagine and you have in your mind, the universe is inscribes truth in every single moment.
Hmm.
People tell me, "Oh, are you reading cards?" I say, "The water talks to me, the plant, my palm, the other side, like." And the truth is changing.
Yeah.
The truth is changing minute to minute. But and the difficult is because we're all human, when the truth comes that is very difficult, we don't want to hear it. It's like, well, okay, I see it, I understand it, but I'm having a little hard
Maybe I'll
time.
go just a little more just to be sure.
Eh,
It's
Yeah, or maybe sometimes we turn around completely and we're like, okay, universe, I need a minute or a moment to integrate this because it's not easy. The truth is not easy to face, sometimes because as humans, we have our longings, our desires, our wishes, our dreams, Neptune. We have Neptune stuff, we have Venus stuff, we have preferences, attachments. And so, but the universe is right there, steady, and just has the
yeah.
answer for us if we.
Yeah, and even sometimes, you know, I had the experience recently with someone that I'm mentoring where they were very clearly felt guided on this one action. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. The timing's not the best. And they were like, but all these signs. And I'm like, okay. And the thing that you have to remember is like anytime other people are involved, their their angels, their fates, their
Right.
could be taking them in a very different direction. And so
Yes,
there's a
the free
chance
will
that
of the other individual.
even
Yes.
though you feel guided, very clear for something,
Right.
if the other person may have a different fate, a different idea, and it may end up manifesting a situation very different than what you thought was going to happen. And it's not because you misread the signs or that you thought you were guided when you weren't. It's that you were guided, they weren't, and or they were guided in a different way. And that's life, you know?
Exactly, or it's not meant to be this alchemical. It's like the planetary alignments. There's a trine, there's a square, the classical aspects. Sometimes we come together with people, we look at each other, something, a firework happens, but it's not for whatever reason, professional, emotional, physical, whatever it is. Sometimes the universe is like the other person is just not going to the alchemy because, as you said, there is a bigger plan for each one involved
Yep.
if we are
And
allowing to
yep.
hear it.
And it's
Yeah.
possible the other person just isn't reading the signs as clearly. They are having a bad day, or they read the signs saying you should go the other way, not this way. It's there's a lot of
Totally.
ways. There's a lot of ways that it can get. But yeah, I think it's important to remember, like, um, that that magic is not, and indeed, it's actually not even primarily about our will. Yes, we have to know how to use our will to make this stuff happen, and we have to be daring enough to exercise our will. But I think it's a really great point what you say about these three fates and the three graces of aligning with the higher will, and with the three fates in particular, it's not just, it's also the right time, you know,
Yes.
like there's a beginning, a middle, and an end of something. So you might have the right desire, the right will, and the spirits may be, yes, we want that too, but wait, not yet. It's not time yet. It's not, something else has to be developed. I've had this happen to me as a writer so many times where I'm like, I'm burning with a passion to be working on a particular project, and then life happens where it's just I'm forced to pay attention to something else, and I don't, and I'm really bummed because I wanted to be doing my writing, and I'm ended up, like John Lennon said, life is what happens when you're busy, or yeah, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans, right? Life
Yes, yes.
happens, life happens, and I'm bummed, and then I finally get to do the writing that I wanted to do, and something happened in between where I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to write this if I had done the writing when I first wanted to. So there was some kind of ripening process in my life, that was something inside me was still ripening. And even though I felt really, strongly motivated to do it, it just wasn't time yet. I've learned that. I had to learn that lesson several times before it really, like, okay, like if you're being delayed, there's probably a reason. And
Absolutely
yeah.
agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. And that is why, in the most absolute higher forms of magic, there is always the cautions and the precautions. Take her medicines, take Kabbalah, take King Solomon and the stars and the fixed stars and Hermetic magic. All of it is about wisdom and listening. Listening first to the wisdom and asking, which I think, in conclusion, just to be able to close, because I know you're busy and I am on the move as well, and looking forward to our next election date. If I had something to say about Procyon, is exactly the attention, the protection, the pre-preparation, pre thinking about something before we jump, protecting something, guarding something, the guardianship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah. And in that regard, Sylvia, I would point out that this election that we have for this month is what I call a temporary election, because I usually don't, like, how they say, something is carved in stone. Well, that's literally how you make these talismans, is you'll carve the symbol on the right gemstone. And so I won't carve in stone one of these unless everything is pretty well perfect. And that means there's no squares or oppositions difficult like from Saturn or Mars or anything because the to me I know there are different opinions on this, but to me, like that, life is hard enough without inviting more hardships along for the ride. And right now, we have a square between Jupiter and Saturn that's finishing. This is the third of three squares. And there's the three that's coming back up again. And so this
Mm-hmm.
particular time, it might be a good time to get in touch with Procyon and to
Mm-hmm.
say, and just introduce yourself. I would like to work with you, or to let him know at some point, Procyon, I would like to do this kind of magic and sort of
Mm.
make the introduction. And then next month we have, after these squares are passed, we have an election that's much more appropriate for a permanent working. Um,
Amazing. I'm looking forward to
yeah.
hearing the date from you.
Okay.
Thank you for all your knowledge, your
You're
time,
welcome.
your presence.
Thank you
I'm
also.
very, yes, I'm very excited. And thank you to all of our audience. I'll share this to our writings and to our Substack. Have a wonderful continuation, Gary, and all of you.
Thank you. Many
Thank you.
blessings. Thrice great blessings.
Yes.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.